Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am joined by the one and only Bowlestrek, and today we are going to be discussing the pivotal question: can Doctor Who ever recover from the past 8 years or so? So I'm on camera, so I'm just going to change that real quickly. I haven't even got my avatar set up yet. Love my professionalism here, guys. So to start off with, I'm going to start off with you, Chris, if that's okay. We'll just talk about how you became a Doctor Who fan and what led you to where we are now.
Hello. Well, hi everyone. Yes, it's me. No, it's okay, Jack. I like your avatar. It's like the what do we call it? It's like something from a '70s sci-fi horror movie. Taking place in a lab. It's like one of them. What do they call them? Logos. Logos. The word. Hello, everybody. It's Saturday. Well, late Saturday morning-ish. I've got my coffee. I'm semi-awake. I'm not always awake. I'm awake now. I'll also let y'all know my Yeti mic is a little bit mad at me because I've been yelling into the same mic for 8 years now, and he's due to be replaced, which I will probably do on Black Friday. So if it starts cutting out, just let me know, and I will just mute it and yell at it and maybe hit it, and we'll be good. This mic, Jack, this mic has so much trauma. Every rant I've done has been into this poor mic, and I use a sock as my pop filter. Yeah, I'm that special. Okay, so yeah, hi. There you go. See, that looks better. Although I did like the logoism of the Andromeda effect logo, but cool.
Nice. Yeah, this is what I did for Halloween. I think we're close enough to that time of year to use this.
Yeah, see, this is everybody. This is my favorite time of the year. It may be a little secret that I'm a bit of a horror fan. For other people, it's Christmas time. No. For me, it's Halloween. I got to get some new decorations this year. My neighbor just put out his new skeleton. This thing is it's like 15 feet tall. It's like my dog Sky absolutely hates it. She saw this morning, so I'm going to deal with that every time I take her out. But no, it's this is my favorite time of the year. I got to get my pumpkin. I got to get me some Halloween colored lights. I got to get some scary things up. I refuse to use the word spooky because it's not spooky month. It's Halloween. Don't say spooky. That just sounds stupid. And like my Christmas day is Halloween day. I'm like the guy. I got my house already. I got like candy set up. If my dog will let me, I'll dress her up. But Lexi would not let me, and Sky won't let me, so that won't happen. I got my bowls of candy, and yeah, I'm like it's fun. Go Halloween. So yeah, that happens on what, Tuesday? Damn, how is it already almost October in 2024? Jack and I were talking earlier, and I was telling him I'm old. That's how you know that you're old, when the years just go gone. It's like it was just January. Now it's October. So there's this, Jack. Sometimes I give useless facts. Would you like a useless fact before we start?
Why not?
Okay. So you're young, so you haven't experienced this yet. But anybody who's old and closer to death than not death, like me, will notice that as you get older, time goes by very, very quick. And why does that happen? Well, time itself doesn't actually go by faster, but there are two physiological causes that make that, in the brain. So one is, as you get older, your ability to perceive time decreases, so you don't actually perceive time at the same rate you would when you were younger. So say when you're around 50, your perception of, say, your 4, or depending on the country, 5 years of high school would be the equivalent of about 10 to 15 years to your old brain. So just think of that if you're not already depressed enough about getting old. So the next 15 years mentally to you is going to be the equivalent of high school. The second is long-term memory. So the reason why everything seems longer when you're younger is you're having more and more new experiences. So more and more things are being decoded into your long-term memory. As you get older, you have few new things happen, few novel things. Things become routine. A lot of people notice as soon as they start like the job that they work forever, things start speeding up, and that's because the brain just doesn't save the information because it's redundant, because it's the same thing over and over again. So that's the thing. So when your long-term memory, think of it as like a recording hard drive. The files for your younger years are a lot bigger because a lot more happen, because you're learning things, you're having new life experiences, especially when you're going through puberty, things like that. And then as soon as you hit your 20s, and it seems to be, and I'm really boring, I've researched this, 26, 27 is when people really notice the slowdown. And obviously your brain is fully developed at around 25. So that kind of makes sense. So that's why it goes by. And I remember my grandmother once said, my now late grandmother, she said she would track how quickly time was moving by tracking Christmases. And she said the older she got, the closer together each Christmas day would be. And that's how she would track that. So that's so we'll call this Bowlestrek's education period. And start with a doctor that has no number. You don't know how old he is. Makes the heart grow fonder and all. Yes. So would we want to live as long as the doctor, the real doctor, not the fake doctor? No, probably not, because things will get boring. But I don't even know how we got on that, Jack. I think my brain just went there for some reason.
No, it's absolutely fine.
We were talking about Halloween and why they're closer together. But yeah, so that's my lesson for the day. I'm going to turn things back to Jack, and I'm going to have a sip of my coffee.
So yeah, to be honest, I've started noticing time going faster since I was 20. It might have had something to do with lockdown. Probably affected it greatly.
I was going to say that. Yeah, you'll notice everybody across the board, no matter the age, those 2 years where, for reasons which we will not get into because it will get Jack in trouble with YouTube, but we'll just say things may be a bit suspect. But from the 2 to 3 years, depending on what country you are, it's like a void. And everybody says it's like I have my life, and then there's like a 2 or 3 year void. Yeah,
that's true.
That's what it is. And then some people notice time slowed down again when the thing of suspect nature ended.
Yeah, it's for me it hasn't, and that's getting me worried. I can't believe how close we are to Halloween already. I mean, it felt like only yesterday I put on my Michael Myers mask and went around scaring my neighborhood, which I actually did last year.
Jack, I was watching. What was I watching? Batman 1989. I was watching that recently, and then I started. And this is before your time, but I remember the summer of 1989. I was 11. I was 11. It's like it was yesterday. Then it occurred to me that was 35 years ago. No, this is another thing that just gets really trippy as you get older, is how things that happened 20, 30, my memory goes back. I was born in the late 70s. My memory goes back to the early 80s. How things that happened decades ago in your brain, literally, it's like it was yesterday. I find this stuff curious, Jack. This is what happened after I told that show I used to be obsessed with to go to hell. I got interested in other things, but yeah, sort of how the brain works, especially with aging and memory. I don't know. It's become a little bit of a hobby of mine because I'm boring that way. This is what happens when you don't drink anymore. You have to do your own fun. So I instead of going out and partying, I research how the brain works.
Well, it's good that you're talking about this, because honestly, this is a question that I've had on my mind for the past 3 years or so. Like, why is time going so fast? It's not fair. There are so many things I want to achieve, and I keep looking in the mirror and going, "Oh God, I'm a year older." And
Jack, you are decades younger than me. I was where you are in the early 2000s. Trust me, my friend, you've got a lot of time left, and your generation will probably your lifespan is in the hundreds.
Oh God, no.
Low hundreds. I think for Gen X, when we get older. I think our lifespan is considered to be probably mid to late 90s. Zoomers, it's supposed to be in the it's there's a whole chart you can access, but for like my parents' generation was in their 70s. For baby boomers, um, or younger baby boomers, it's probably going to be in their 80s. For Gen X, it's going to be in their Gen X and millennials in their 90s, but Zoomers will be in your hundreds. So, Jack, you've got many, many years. It will seem like 2 years, but you've got many, many decades to go, and so much of this wonderful world to experience with this wonderful future we have. Everything just looks so rosy right now. I don't see how anything could get any better. If you're a fan of post-apocalyptic horror, you're gonna love the future. So that was
Well,
both my optimism and my pessimism at the same time, and I leave it up to you to guess which is which.
oh gosh.
So I'm
So
gonna stop
if it's
rambling and I'm gonna let you talk.
okay, so after the sidetrack there, so if we get back towards Doctor Who, if it's okay with you, Chris.
Oh, that's
Uh,
what we're here to talk about. I thought I was here to talk about the brain. I'm kidding, Jack. Yes, let's talk about real Doctor Who and fake Doctor Who.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was just kind of do like a just recap really of what led you to be a fan, what made you so passionate about the show, because I know that you were very passionate about New Who up until a certain casting announcement, and it much the same as me right now. It's sort of the past few years has really given you a sort of reevaluation of everything from 2005. So we can sit here for ages and go on about how amazing Classic Who is, but as I'd mentioned to you before the stream, I started off with New Who, but I was only interested in the Daleks. So if a Dalek wasn't on the screen, I wasn't interested. I have mentioned this on previous streams. But I then started to go back and discover classic Doctor Who episodes. And my first full classic Doctor Who story was Resurrection of the Daleks. And I watched it because it had Davros in it, who hadn't been in the new series at that point. So, you know, a half human, half Dalek was the coolest thing ever. That's now been ruined. We all know why.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it was great. So that kind of led me to dipping my toe into Classic Who. And then so this was round about, I would say, not long after Series 3 had aired. And by this point, I was starting to kind of expand a bit and not just be about the Daleks, but start actually enjoying the show. So I would say 2007 was when my sort of fandom was cemented. My love for the show was cemented. And then 2008 was a great year. Like my mom bought me quite a few Classic Who DVDs. I hope I got this right, but I think I had all of the Davros stories by that point, although I didn't watch them in the right order. This is insane. I actually watched Resurrection, Destiny, Remembrance, Revelation, then Genesis. So yeah, try wrap your head around that. And then I got Tomb of the Cybermen, which to this day is my favorite Cyberman story. I've watched it recently. It's absolutely fantastic.
Masterpiece.
It is. I can't believe actually how you could view it as its own film. It just has such a great production, such a great cast of side characters. You know, a lot of people say that Classic Who wasn't drama enough. It's like, go watch the first season with Hartnell and the wonderful character development that Ian and Barbara have, who are my favorite companions.
Well, and Jack, and you weren't around when they found Tomb of the Cybermen, because that was a lost episode.
Yes.
I remember the first time I saw it. Like, they found it in 1992, and it was within weeks. It was on PBS. It was like a terrible. They didn't do any cleanup. They literally just transferred the film. But I remember watching this. It was an amazing episode. It was like this lost piece. It was new to all of us. It was awesome. So yeah, that's about as good as it gets.
Mm. Yeah, and I suppose I've been very fortunate, really, to grow up in a time where I had an abundance of Doctor Who, because you know I had the new series and all the merchandise and toys and books, but then I also had a whole other show to collect on DVD, and I am ashamed of how many years it took me to complete my Classic Who collection. And you know, I was very cherry picky to start off with, but I did sign up to this. Doctor Who sort of collection, you know, like where they sell you a magazine and a DVD or a magazine and a thing to build something, you know, $1.99, then the price goes up. It was a bit something like that. It was a monthly issue, and I ended up
Columbia
with
House.
yeah, and I ended up with a whole DVD collection of not just New Who but Classic Who as well. So one day I was because when Russell T Davies left and he transitioned to Stephen Moffat, the show changed massively. Like it didn't even feel like the same show. And my younger self really didn't like that. I did grow to Matt Smith over time, but I felt that Moffat's he was good during RTD's era, but him trying to write sort of series arcs and making them so confusing, and the show just felt very off for me. So I decided, actually, do you know what? I'm going to give these Classic Who's a watch, and I found myself just enjoying them so much more. You know, even though they were older, even though they were more slower paced, and yes, some of them didn't look as good as others, but it was always a great thing to do. I found the night before school, you know, you just help you relax, and I really did fall in love with the older show. And by 2017, we'd had Series 10 and the announcement of a big change that was coming in the show. And this was a change that I was very unsure about. And I knew the common arguments. I'd had some less than desirable people at high school mocking me for saying that I didn't like the idea that the Doctor should be a woman. It wasn't that I was being sexist. It's just my 13-year-old self couldn't process the idea of a character who was male being female. Strange, right? So after that, I decided, well, this is a bit strange. So I took to YouTube to see if anyone else was feeling the same as me, and was met with, no, it's the greatest thing ever. No, it's the greatest thing ever. And then I found your channel, and I watched, I believe the first video I watched was, I forget the title, but it was the casting of the female Doctor, My Concerns, I think. And that led me to the rise and fall of Classic Who, which in my opinion is so good it deserves to be a DVD bonus feature. It really is that good. It's a proper recap of the history of Doctor Who and how it led to that point. It's, I mean, I've praised you on this before. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thanks, Jack.
And yeah, it's I must admit, I went into Series 11 with a bit of optimism. I was like, well, you know, I've heard Bowlestrek's warnings, but let's go in with some optimism. And then I can say that by episode 3, I was like, yep, he's 100% right. And from that point, I think it was just, God, when is this going to be over? And then The Timeless Child happened, which I actually missed on broadcast, funnily enough, because at that point, I wasn't bothered whether I saw the show live or not, which was the first time in history. Like, if I missed Doctor Who, I would be upset, like, even right the way through the Moffat era. But this was the first time I was like, no, I don't really care. But then I noticed that the YouTube and the internet had just exploded with people who were very upset. I still remember poor Nolan just thinking, oh God, what's happened? And it turns out, yeah, they did the unthinkable. So that's pretty much led us to where we are now. I mean, Flux, who really cared about that? I got my hopes up when I heard that Russell T Davies was coming back. I know you didn't, and I fully wish I'd been on board with that, considering what happened. But I don't know if you were aware of this, Chris, but Russell T Davies actually told me to F off on Instagram.
I've never used your name, but I've referenced that many times. No, I've got on my phone. I actually have a screen cap of that. Oh
Yeah.
no, I never said it was my my friend Jack was attacked by Russell. I just say somebody that I know, but no, I reference that all the time. I thought that was
I do. It's funny. I get loads of YouTubers referencing it and going, "Oh, they're." I don't like to go in the comments and go, "He's talking about me," but it's like I know who they're talking about, and oftentimes they'll use the word "fanza" when I'm not sure if he told anyone else directly to f off, but I know that I kind of got my 10 minutes of fame from that. I was the guy who RTD actually verbally attacked on there, so yeah, that was quite a
He's not a
shocking
nice
day.
man. That's all I'll say about that. He is not. He is a terrible person.
Yeah. Well, this has really been the struggle for me because I very much idealized him. I thought, you know, he made a wonderful, magical show when I was a kid. And I thought that he would have the respect and the care to not want to make it as worse as Chibnall has made it, and I foolishly believed. I believed that he had the show's best intentions in his heart, and I was wrong. So, it really has been a huge eye opener the past year. But in spite of everything that was done, in spite of me being told to F off, I still came back for the 50th anniversary, for the 60th anniversary, because I'm a fan. I'm a lifelong fan. I love David Tennant. I actually met him at Telford Comic Con in 2022. Great experience. I did some bunny artwork for him, and he showed it. He held it up and was smiling, and he took the photo of me with it. And he said it's wonderful. I'm sure he put it in the bin when he got home, but it was
If that was before he went insane.
Well, yes, and I met Catherine Tate as well, and she was absolutely wonderful. She actually stood up and came around from behind the table to have a chat with me. She didn't just sit there and be like, "Oh, that's nice. Okay, move on." She was truly lovely, and she gave me a £40 autograph for free because I did her little drawing, which I never expected, and they were absolutely amazing. So seeing them in that god awful Star Beast episode, which, by the way, Chris, I don't consider myself a political person or anti anything, but when I heard there was going to be a trans sort of thing being pushed, I was like, it might just be subtext level. My jaw was dropped.
Yeah.
My jaw was dropped. I was watching it with my parents, and even my parents were looking at me like, "Oh my god, this is bad."
Yeah.
And I remember the scene where they said to the doctor, "Oh, shame you're not a woman anymore," because she'd have understood. I nearly threw the television controller at the TV. I was that mad. I had to take breathers. I just wanted to turn it off.
I felt bad for. I did feel bad for people that held out hope because you have people that were interested in it for the obvious trendy reasons, but you had people that genuinely thought that the show was going to come back. I wasn't one of them for a second, but I remember I felt bad for those people. I'm like, you know what, you've held out hope for. At that point, it was like 2 years thinking the show would come back, and here it's actually worse. And not only that, they've ruined David Tennant. It's yeah. Even I was expecting it was. I didn't expect it was going to be that deliberate and that direct.
Well, I actually clipped a sort of behind the scenes interview with him. I don't know if you've heard it, where you'll have to brace yourself because I'm going to do my Russell T Davies impression. This seems to have made me quite popular in some circles, but do forgive me for this. So I'll do the best I can. But ready?
Okay, hi Russell.
Okay, hello everyone. So, bi generation, it's a new thing. Imagine how much the fans really love new things and will really rejoice when this happens. And
that's actually that you got it spot on.
I do, and honestly, I've probably got myself through bad times just taking the mick out of this guy and his hilarious voice. Oh, whatever the Tory government says they'll do, they will do. They are very good at that. Honestly, they are voted. They are terrible, terrible people. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
Oh, you've got the condescending elitism perfect.
I actually did a skit where they were all at Bad Wolf Studios, and Russell T Davies was coming in like the head teacher, taking the register. All right, Moffat, here. Chibnall, here. Nicholas, here. Put that microphone away before I take it away. I could just picture it being like that. But back to the topic. So so after the Star Beast, I was very much just completely disenfranchised. I just felt like no, that's it. I did forget to talk about the reveal for Gatwa. Now, I remember, and it's a shame that we live in a society where this has happened, but as soon as I saw, I'm a bit ashamed to admit, but as soon as I saw what he looked like, I immediately said, no, I'm done. Because it was a move that was so obvious. I was expecting it. I just thought, oh no. But people were telling me to calm down. They were like, no, come on, don't be like that. Obviously, you can't judge him on that. Is he a good actor? And I'm like,
I would
okay,
have given him when I first saw it. See, I remember when I saw the announcement. I had just gotten up and looking at my phone. Doctor Who announcement. Oh, well, I have a feeling where this is going. It might not be going there. So I'm going to look into this further. And then I see, so I just go over to YouTube. Gary's streaming. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll see what Gary has to say about this.
yeah,
And just as I clicked his video or clicked his stream, he was watching the red carpet scene. I'm like, so that was
yes.
my introduction. I'm like, nope. Okay. I hate to say that I told you so. But everybody who was a little bit grumpy with me, which was for the second time in like 5 years, everyone, yeah, I told you so again for the second time.
So exactly the same thing happened. I went straight to Gary's video because I thought, well, he'll be talking about it. I want to see what his views are on it. And he was watching the red carpet, and as soon as I heard these words, I just love seeing the strides taken in terms of representation, and I think there's a lot more that we can do. There's a lot being done. There's a lot of wonderful stuff being done, and I'm just like, okay. I think I was putting a gun to my head at that point and just going, no, it's done. And then RTD stood over him like he's brandishing his trophy. I think we're in a good place. Also, think we're in a worrying place. I think we've got a government that's about to sell Channel 4 and have said that the BBC licence fee is coming to an end in 2027. Well, that isn't going to happen now that Labour's in, but there you go. I was just so done. I've been mocking that red carpet scene since it's been going, but we haven't even gotten on to Shooter yet. But if you were to ask me who's worse, I can't believe I'm saying this. He's worse than Jodie.
No, it's having struggled through both, and I wouldn't have struggled through either of them other than the first episode if I wasn't reviewing them. But as somebody who struggled through these episodes in detail because I watched them several times each episode because I had to make the video, it was pure hell. No, what RTD came back is infinitely worse than Chips. I didn't think it was possible.
I didn't.
But no, like when I was going through Whitaker's, like they were terrible, but there was also just a so bad it's good quality to them in a way.
Yeah.
And Whitaker was just such a bad actor, and it was so ludicrous. Like in some ways you couldn't help but laugh at it.
Yeah.
But with RTD, it actually seemed even more nefarious.
It's like he's intentionally sticking a knife in.
He knew, you could tell, like Whitaker was a bunch of people that thought they were above everybody else that were talking points, and none of them had the intelligence to actually figure out what they were doing. With RTD, it was nefarious. Well, RTD too, it was nefarious all the way through. It was. I view that dumpster fire of a season as not trying to make Doctor Who, not trying to make something that's good. I viewed the entire thing as a middle finger to those who got Russell there because he's a bitter, vindictive man. It's just it was so mean spirited and just had so much hate and contempt for the fans. And Jack, I brought this up before. I don't know if you noticed this, but they said they actually disavowed fans and anybody who grew up with the classic series. Because near the end, especially Russell was saying, we're now aiming at 35 and under. 35 years ago was 1989. December 1989 was the end of the classic series. So by saying that, he's literally said under 35. So anybody that even existed on the planet during the entire run of the original series, this is not for you. So he literally, in that sentence, and I think he did it deliberately, he disavowed everyone. So it's in a way that, but the level of bitterness itself is comical because he's so angry and so resentful. And yes, he's had bad things happen to him, but other people have lost spouses and they haven't turned into an absolute monster, and they haven't gone back to destroy something that they built themselves just to spite people. Like I've been covering this for years. Star Trek, everything else. I don't think I've ever seen anything as spiteful as RTD2. And it's just, and when you watch, and he wrote, I think, all but one of the episodes, you can see the bitterness, the spite, everything in every line that man has written. Like,
Yeah.
dude, just retire. And I'm like, and I can't stand all New Who, but I do remember liking RTD's run, like really liking it, like it being,
Mm.
thinking it was the best thing ever while it was on. I can't, it's one of those things that's been ruined for me in retrospect. Um, but I can't believe it's the same. Like his arcs were very simplistic. It was usually like, let's throw everything we possibly can, but they were exciting. And I look at this, I'm like, how is this written by the same person? And you look at when David Tennant came back, and you've got like most people will say series 8 was the best of New Who, or not, or 2008 series 4.
Oh yeah.
I personally, I gravitate more towards Moffat. I think season 5 was the best. My favorite RTD1 era, which I can't watch anymore, was series 3. But I'm watching just Tennant, like the entire original crew. I'm like, how is this the same people? And then you're watching, like, and the arc with Sutek at the end was, like, in terms of stupid plot lines, it might be the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like,
I'm
no, dude, how many plot holes did you just create? That almost outdoes the Timeless Children.
I'm gonna
But
come
it's
clean with you. I actually didn't watch. I didn't watch any of the RTD2 era. I was out after.
I wouldn't have, if I wasn't reviewing it, I would have watched the Star Beast just out of curiosity. I don't think I would have finished the episode. It would have been out of curiosity. I would have watched Shooty's first episode. Well, actually, no. I guess it would have been the Christmas thing. I never would have. The only reason I watched this is because I was reviewing it. If I wasn't covering Doctor Who, I would have dipped out probably. I probably wouldn't even made it to the end of Whitaker's first season if I was, not doing YouTube, just doing my DVD things and stuff at that point. I would have ducked out at Arachnids of the UK. That would have been the end of me and
Yeah.
Doctor Who. So you consider yourself lucky, Jack, that you didn't witness what the rest of us witnessed on screen. And I had to live with these things for 2 days, because the average production time for one of my videos, where I, with the screen caps and with the riffing and the script, is about 12 hours. So I had to live with every one of those episodes for 12, insert word I can't say, hours.
My God. I don't know how you could do it. It's just such a disgrace. But I've really been through a sort of transformation in terms of how I perceive Doctor Who, and I think I'm very much experiencing what you were experiencing, because I said during towards the end of the Chibnall era, I was like, I don't know if I can handle more of this. So if RTD doesn't work, if he messes this up, it really truly will be the end for me. And this is a show that I've given quite a lot of my life to. I've Even though I haven't enjoyed all of it, like I say, the Moffat era wasn't that great in my opinion. And I didn't enjoy any of the Chibnall stuff. I just don't know if I can bring myself to do this anymore. But I've really, as I've gone back and I've been watching Classic Who, I've come to notice the insane difference between the two shows. And I've come to realize that I don't think Doctor Who ever truly came back in 2005. I
It
think it's an entirely different show. And that's strange for me to be thinking like that because,
Oh, that's accurate. I would say, my perspective is a little bit different. Like I was older than you are right now by a couple of years when the show came back. But no, like I'm somebody, like I grew up with the classic series. Like my earliest memory, going back to my memory thing, but it is Doctor Who. It's around 1981, watching Destiny of the Daleks with my dad. So Peter Davison, I guess you could say, was my doctor, because it's the first one that I remember completely. But I grew up with the classic series. I watched the decline. I remember to this day I hate season 24, and I remember at the time I didn't. And then I remember being so excited at season 26, which I think is a masterpiece. And I remember in the end, well, Jack, we experienced sort of two comebacks. We experienced a minor comeback in '96 with the Paul McGann movie. Loved Paul McGann as the Doctor, but the movie, which was actually shot in Canada, was filmed in Vancouver, aired on the Fox network, produced by Universal and owned by the BBC. That's why it took forever to come out here on DVD, because it was a rights disaster. When it came back in '96, it was similar to the same thing. I'm like, I like it, but it's not the same show. And why is he half human? I'm glad they did away with that. But that it was similar when the show came back. I think the very beginning, Rose, in some ways, it was very similar to in terms of feel, it was very similar to the end of McCoy's. Like, it could have tacked on to the end of Survival very easily, but I think very quickly the show became something different. Like, as much as I love New Who, there are things that it did from the beginning that I didn't like. Not Moffat kind of did away with this, but things that RTD did even in his first run, where every goddamn episode had to have the big tear jerking moment at the end. I hated that. You didn't have that in Classic Who. And when you did have it, like, the death of Adric, or when Joe left, the very, very rare times they did it, it had an effect. RTD had to put that into every episode, and Murray Gold had to have a little wank fest with his soundtrack. I hated that. Also, the original show, even though it was technically written for kids, although that changes in the 80s, it becomes more of an adult show. But even for a show that was written for kids, there was a difference in the dialogue. The dialogue was written with a certain degree of intelligence in mind, where, it wouldn't appeal to everyone, or where, if you're lowbrow, which lowbrow wasn't really a thing back then because people were generally better educated. But it was written so you had to have a certain level of intelligence to understand it. New Who, from the time it came back, the dialogue, everything was written for the lowest common denominator. A lot of the sillyisms really bugged me. The structure of the show, I love the typically 4 episode, although in the early years it was often 6 episodes, especially during, Pertwee would have a lot of 6 episodes, 7 episodes, very long episodes in the Hartnell era. I like the longer structure of the shows. I like the shows being able to breathe. Changing that structure to a 45-minute episode changed the feel of the show. It was very fast-paced, to where classic Doctor Who wasn't. I didn't like the fast-pacedness of it. The plot lines were more simplistic, didn't require a whole lot of thought. They were entertaining. They were fun to watch. But in every way, other than the fact that you have this character called the Doctor, and you had the TARDIS, and you had the same enemies, they're very different shows. Yeah. And I would go back and forth between them when RTD 1 was airing, because that's when the bulk of the Blu-rays or the DVDs were coming out, and you could see the differences there. But I still, it was a continuation of the same show, but at the same time, it wasn't the same show, and that distinction between the two of them was very clear. Then, as the show started to fall apart in Capaldi's second season, those differences became more pronounced. And now it's like I was telling you, Jack, before we started, like, for me, Doctor Who, I will acknowledge the 96 movie. I consider that real Doctor Who, because things hadn't gone to hell yet at that point. But for me, it's actually a good thing that I now have this separation, because for a couple years I couldn't watch even the classic series. I was so disgusted with what was going on. This was during the later Whittaker eras. Now my love for the classic series is completely rekindled. It's, I view it as this entirely separate thing. I'm getting them on Blu-ray. I try to get them used as they come out, but luckily in Region 1, we're mainly supporting Warner, who distributes them. They're not distributed by Disney. BBC does have, Disney has ownership of all the new stuff, which is why it no longer comes out on physical media. But I've been revisiting the classic series, and during my boycott, a lot of these episodes I haven't watched for years. They are very different shows. And I love it. There are 2 series, Jack, that to me I consider sacred. There are shows that I grew up with, And aside from my brief boycott of Classic Who, I've watched them throughout my life, which is Star Trek, the classic series, and classic Doctor Who. And
Yeah.
just like the way I've been able to separate classic Star Trek from Star Trek Discovery and the first two seasons of Picard and what eventually became A Strange New Worlds, which was awful. I'm able to separate them. I view them differently. And there's only one surviving producer from Doctor Who that was really still alive to witness what happened to the show. That's Philip Hinchcliffe. And you can tell in one of the interviews, which was heavily edited, he is completely against what's going on. I think a lot of the people behind the show would have been absolutely disgusted. Even Barry Letts, who was a traditional leftist, actually borderline, he was a socialist, borderline on communist. But Barry Letts had always said the politics needs to be left out. It can be in there, but it has to be subdued. And he was dealing with a hardcore communist called Malcolm Hulk, who wrote a number of Pertwee episodes, who basically, this guy was a communist. Barry Letts had to do a lot of editing of the scripts to keep all the political crap out of it. He's like, no, this is not what the show is about. This is what I agree personally. And the farthest they ever got to it was the Green Death. But for the most part, politics was kept out, or was done in metaphor. It was done in allegory. So it's a shame that Barry Letts isn't around anymore, because I would have loved to have seen his take on it, and I think it would have been very well reasoned. Verity Lambert, had she still been around, somebody who actually in the 60s actually did deal with actual gender discrimination, and she was only in her 20s when she was doing this, somebody who actually did have a hill to climb up. I would have loved to see her take on the Whittaker era. I'm like, okay, no, Jodie, you don't have it hard. You have it very easy. I have it hard. And yes, she did. She built that show from nothing, and she has a lot to do with why it's still around. Whittaker had the whole thing handed to her and destroyed it. So it's, the differences be like all the creatives of New Who are completely up their own bad word that rhymes with grass. Completely self-obsessed. This is all just one egocentric ego session for them. Whereas the classic series, yes, the BBC has always been elitist. It comes out of the class system in Britain. Unfortunately, it now seems to be worse than it ever was. But you did have an elitist corporation. But the difference was the BBC used to make world-class entertainment. Doctor Who, one of the best shows ever made. Their comedies in the 90s, some of the best shows ever made. Their news programming before they went completely off the rails a little over a decade ago, best you'll ever see. It's just mind-boggling. But no, in every way other than in name, Classic Who has nothing in common with what we've been, definitely not what we've been watching since 2017. And now I'd say nothing with New Who, because here's the problem, Jack. If you watched what RTD did beginning with last year, and you watch the original series, you can see where this was going. And after you know where it was going, you can't unsee that. And I've heard this from a lot of people. Now that you go back and watch RTD1, you could see him planting the seeds for what he was eventually going to do to the show. Well,
I'm just going to interrupt you here, because it's funny what you say, because me and Lee are actually watching Torchwood, and because we're doing a marathon of RTD's original era that includes Torchwood and Sarah Jane. The Sarah Jane adventures, I'm very happy to say, so far have been untainted for me. I've watched the whole of series 1 and have actually really enjoyed it.
That was Elizabeth Sladen. That was more the difference with the Sarah Jane adventures is Elizabeth Sladen was somebody who genuinely loved the fans. Like, she was a wonderful person. Watch anybody I've never heard anybody say a bad word about her. I can tell you right now, that was Elizabeth Sladen. She wanted to make sure that even though it was directed at kids, it was accessible to everyone. And she would not have done it if it was going to be political. That's why there's a separation with that show compared to everything else.
Yeah. But I think it is a really wonderful show, and I was worried that had RTD put stuff in there that I hadn't picked up on before that I'm going to pick up on now. From what I could see from the first season, no. Even though it is actually quite a diverse show, I don't feel like the characters are diversity hires. But
Nope.
with Torchwood, there's a specific episode where it's ridiculous. It's like a lesbian alien that makes out with Tosh every second. But Russell, in the sort of behind the scenes, said, and I'll quote as best I can, originally this character was going to be a man, but I decided, no, I'm going to make it a woman because that's important. And I am absolutely so proud that I've done this. Thought it was vital. And I'm just like, what does that remind you of? When he did the thing about Davros, the infamous, there's a problem with the Davros of old in the sense that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. I had problems with that. Lots of us on the production team had problems with that I hired only last week. And yes, I thought it was absolutely vital to do this. And I'm so proud of the fact that I have. And I don't care what the fans think. If you're a fan and you like Davros the way he's tough, go away. Get lost. I don't know what you're watching anymore.
That is perfect. And he's such a jackass.
I just...
It's well, and just like ask Daniel about that.
I was just going to mention our good friend Daniel, who, despite being in a wheelchair, identified himself as Davros, which I think is just so cool. You know, I love that sort of. There he is in the chat, and it's so wonderful. I don't think people like RTD really understand just how precious the things they have are and how much they mean to the people who love them. And, you know, they think that they can just do whatever they want and stuff everybody else. And it's just, I think we really need to get back to the point where if your fans aren't happy, you're going to lose money. So we need to keep the fans happy. You know, it's just this culture where it's like, we can do whatever we want and you can't touch us. You know, and it's so bad. And Davros was one of my favorite characters. Obviously, Russell never stopped to ask wheelchair users what they wanted. He says, no, I thought it was vital to do this. I thought this is how it should be done.
Speaking for other people.
Yeah.
This is what it is, Jack. There in the and it'll make sense when you see it this way, why these people are like this. In the past, there were legitimate movements like first and second wave feminism, very legitimate, very serious societal problems that needed to be dealt with. Gay rights in the 90s, very serious problems that needed to be dealt with. The R word, which I can't say, very serious issues, especially in the 1960s, that had to be dealt with.
Yeah.
When you're looking at people like Russell, they're what we used to call posers. And this is, you look at all these people, I believe, you know, Russell probably agrees to a certain extent with gay rights, but not this other stuff, because obviously he's gay himself, so he's experienced this, although he seems to think it's still 1984. But when you have these people like, I won't mention his name, but we'll just call him Mr. Beardy Woke Pants Piss Baby Reviews as an example.
Oh, I know what you mean, yeah.
But no, these people, none of them believe what they're actually saying because none of them understand what they're actually saying. What it is desperation to fit in. It's like being in high school. Oh, I don't like this band, but I have to pretend I like this band or people are going to call me a loser. It's part of it is fitting in. Part of it is proving I'm superior to everybody else because I'm speaking out about this thing that I don't even understand, but I'm better than you. And part of it is very, very nefarious. Jack, think, this is to anybody here who's watching, think back to the people who were the bullies in your high school. I guarantee every single one of them probably picked up on the woke ideology and pretended to be a proponent of it, because one of the evils of what we're seeing is this gives very bad people power over other people. If you want to bully someone, you're not going to take what they call the conservative alt-right, what I will call just common sense, normal people view, because that doesn't give you any power. If you want power over people, if you want to destroy people, then you pick up this ideology because that gives you power. If you identify as something that you actually aren't, but that gives you power to destroy people. And that's why when you look at a lot of these people who support certain movements that they themselves have nothing to do with this movement, they claim to be speaking for somebody else. No, they don't actually care about it. What they are is they are bullies. They are bitter. They are angry. And this has given them a means to destroy other people. Oh, I don't like this person. Okay, I'm going to get them to say something. Oh, how dare you say that, youist? And then you just get them into conversation, and then you try and, set them off and have them say something. I'm going to screen cap that. Okay, now I can destroy your life. These 99% of these people, there is still, there is a small fraction that are genuine, that are not terrible people. Some of them are just very misguided. Some of them think that things haven't changed over the decades. But when you look at these people and you look at the people that now call themselves Doctor Who fans, look at the terrible things that we've seen done on Twitter. Yeah. You can say, and it's not subjective, it's objective, these are terrible people. I've been a part of online fandom since the internet since I first came online in 1995. The people specifically on now X, formerly Twitter for Doctor Who, are some of the worst humans I've ever seen. And also, when you look at them, they're not really saying anything constructive about the show. What they're doing is they go after other people, and I have a whole collection of attack videos that have been made of me. I actually I kind of laugh at them now. My newest fan was a guy that I've named Spazzy the Tweaker, who made videos. I actually egged this guy on this year because it's got to the point where it's so ridiculous. But you'll have people where I'm not going to create an identity on criticizing a show or kind of making fun of entertainment the way a lot of us do. No, I'm going to go after the individual creators because that gives me power. So your channel becomes nothing but a bunch of attack videos. There's a certain YouTuber who I will not mention by name, who makes 5-hour long Doctor Who videos, who his entire identity, other than purchasing views, is going after people. And this person, I did make the mistake of swallowing this person's bait about 3 years ago when him and another creator who I still get along with, but I don't have much respect for anymore, who will also remain nameless, did a 4-hour stream going after me, and it was all to create drama to bait me. And I decided to do he challenged me to a debate, and he ended up running away from the debate when my angry side came out, and suddenly developed a headache and ran away, because when you challenge these people, they're cowards. And then when I came back about a year ago, this person tried to do it again. He's like, "Oh, you're back. I can't wait to see an old man yelling at the moon," or whatever it was. I'm like, "Yeah, no, sorry, I no longer have time for child grifters." Blocked. And then I never spoke to him again. And apparently a lot of other people did that. And this person has since abandoned YouTube about a year ago because nobody cares about his drama anymore. Him, her, whatever.
I think I might know who you're talking about. I don't know if you remember, but after that whole ordeal, you actually came backstage, and I was there along with Problem Being.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, that's I did live stream after that. I forgot.
That was when I first spoke to you, I think.
Yeah, and that stream, it's for various reasons. All my streams from that day have been set to private. I set my original stream with that person to private because I don't want this person promoted on my channel. And there were 2 live streams, I think, that came after that. I've set those to private because I was responding to the original one. So yeah, I still have it. It's just no longer public. But that's sort of where I was going with this, Jack. the people like Russell, okay, so the one thing where he has experience, okay, I get that. You know, um, he's a gay man. Okay. Never had any issues with that. So he did have experiences with that in the 80s. It's not like that now, but you ask Lee, you ask anybody who did go through that, who was part of that community, it was horrific. So to a certain point, I agree with that, but he's also, things have changed, Russell, in the last 4 decades. But all these other things that he spouts on about that he knows nothing about, like the wheelchair thing is an excellent example. No, this is somebody sniffing their own farts. Somebody who just, I'm not even going to try to do the Russell impression, but I am so superior to everybody else. Look at these causes.
It's absolutely unreal, man.
Yep. So this is what they are, Jack. You know, they're looking to fit in. I'm sorry,
Chris, but in all the time that I saw Davros and all the time that I saw a Dalek, I don't think I ever perceived it as a wheelchair.
It wasn't. It's a life support unit.
Yeah.
And Russell apparently didn't even know that.
Well, then I don't understand how this man claims to have been obsessed with the show since he first saw it, when he struggles to even remember basic knowledge about the canon.
Because he will look for, this is what they do, Jack. They will look for anything that they can do that they can make themselves look superior, where they can lecture to us plebs. He'll look at anything. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I can do this. I'm like, the original show was sexist. No, it wasn't. Did you actually watch episodes with Sarah Jane Smith, who was not afraid to put Tom Baker in her place? Did you watch Joe Grant? Like, did you watch Susan in the 1960s? Did you watch Zoe, who was a scientist?
Did you watch Barbara, who's the most awesome woman ever?
Yep. Or what? I just got Jack. I just mixed them up. I'm old. Yeah, Barbara and Susan. Not afraid to put the Doctor. Perry, who more than once toward the 6th Doctor a new insert word I can't say hole. Ace, who was, how shall I put this? We'll say tough cookie. I can't believe I just said that. But no, you're telling me that Ace was weak? So you're telling me, Russell, that none of these characters ever existed? I'm like, well, everybody was right. Wait, Russell, at the time, what were the demographics of the United Kingdom? Did you consider that? No. Okay. It's like, and the show always celebrated the white male gaze. No, it didn't. I'm like, yeah, it was white because it represented the demographics of the United Kingdom at the time. And it's male? No. Like, as early as the casting of Colin Baker, they were considering casting a woman as the Doctor. I'm like, no, it didn't celebrate the white male gaze. Like, sure, you had maybe your missteps, although the worst companion, Adric, was a male. I'm like, no, it's like you're rewriting history, and this is what they do. It's like Star Trek, the original series was arist. I'm like, okay, yeah, so Uhura just didn't exist. Sulu just didn't exist. Chekhov just didn't exist. I'm like, give me a goddamn break. JNT was joking. There's actually been debate on that. Apparently, based on my research, JNT, when he was thinking of casting a female Doctor, he actually did briefly consider it for a short period when he was looking to flare things up. He briefly considered changing the gender when he was casting Peter Davison. Very quickly came up with the idea that it was a bad idea. And then he ended up joking about it. But no, it was in 1984, actually, well, 1983, when they started discussing it. It was considered changing the gender of the Doctor to do something different with the show. They ultimately didn't do it, and then it became a joke. But no, for a brief period, the show killed him, Lee. Problem being saying JNT was under a lot of stress. the stress that guy was under, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. That's why the guy died at 52. The show literally killed him. But yeah, it was Helen Mirren. She actually had been considered more than once. But yeah, Helen Mirren was considered. I think at one point they even there's a casting tape circulating around somewhere, but it was seriously considered. J&T should have been given a posthumous knighthood. I agree, Lee. I'm like that show wouldn't have made it past 1984 without John Nathan Turner, and he like just watch the behind the scenes stuff. Like what that guy had to deal with across the board was horrific. Doesn't even begin to state it. I have so much I have so much respect for that guy. Like it's like, yeah, Chibs, you claim you had it bad. No, you didn't. RTD, you claim you have it bad. No, you didn't. This show literally killed one of its producers. So shut up.
I mean, I'm coming at this from a perspective of someone who came after Classic Who, so I didn't follow the 80s decline. To me, I always just saw 80s Who as more Doctor Who. So, you know, I understand that, I acknowledge that season 23 and 4 are the worst, but I also acknowledge what was going on behind the scenes at the time, with the BBC deliberately sabotaging the show because they wanted to pay for breakfast TV, and Michael Grade, word I can't say, you know, just... And the irony is that so the show was good. Oh, let's get rid of it. The show is the worst thing ever, but it's our golden goose, so we've got to go out of our way to keep it, no matter what.
Yep.
You know, the irony is just unreal. It's I actually think season 22 is brilliant. I love Attack of the Cybermen, and I love season 25 and 6. So I think Classic Who, for all its faults, it did get to go out on a high, which was a good thing. But in terms of where we are in Doctor Who now, I'm going to bring us to the final part of the stream, which is what the stream is centered around, and that is, and I know your answer will be very quick, but can Doctor Who at any point in the near future or far future ever recover from the 2005 to whenever it will end iteration of the show?
I'll elaborate a little bit more other than just saying no, but my obvious answer is no. And I would say it's really from 2017 on. Just RTD2 just retroactively destroyed the earlier run as well, and now we can see where it was going. No, the show can never recover from this. The show cannot exist without its traditional fan base. And with the 35-year thing, they've disavowed all the classic series fans. The utter disrespect, not only what's on screen, but what's been done in social media, like RTD's attack on you. The way they treat the fans will never be forgotten. And it's one of those things, once you see it, you can never unsee it. And it wasn't just Doctor Who on TV. It's everything involved with the series. It's Doctor Who magazine. Big Finish is a big one. People like me over the years have given Big Finish, have supported Big Finish and given them thousands of dollars. And they are, honestly, from what I hear, even worse than the TV series now. The elitism went into that. Frankly, Big Finish, I'd like my money back, please. They tried catering to an audience that for the most part doesn't exist, or aren't interested in watching Doctor Who. One problem, which I think has always been a problem in Doctor Who, is the elitism, both in front of and behind the camera and in the fandom. Doctor Who is a little bit different than most other franchises. Maybe it's because it's British. I have no idea. But Doctor Who, fandom within itself, actually has always had a class system. And I noticed this as soon as I started discussing Doctor Who with other fans online in 1995. There are two tiers of fans. There are the chosen fans, those that I'd say most of them are probably upper class. I guarantee most of the people that were doing bad things on Twitter.
Chris, do you mean like a certain someone? It could have been a lot better. It could have been slightly better written, especially
Yeah, the perfect
story.
example. No, there is an elitism, and that's one of them. It's actually a lot of them. And Jack, I actually noticed this early on, how there was a tier of fans where a fan, one of the chosen fans farts in your direction. Oh, this person is the best ever. If you weren't one of the chosen ones, 15, 16 years ago, when YouTube was very different, I did have the largest Doctor Who themed channel on YouTube. Uh, I know because I followed all the channels back then, and none of them even came close, including a certain person we previously referenced. Uh, I had an Amazon affiliate link. All those have since been removed, but I made them a lot of money through DVD sales. How much attention do you think I ever got from the fans that be, or from the powers that be? None. Um, when certain other people who are in the chosen group, mommy and daddy, have money and connections with the BBC, or just, you're part of the elite group. I'm like, oh, check out this person's channel. You mean this person that only gets 300 views a video? I've been doing this for years, and my videos are in the thousands and tens of thousands. Nope, I wasn't attacking the show back then. Don't pay attention to this Bowlestrek person. He's not part of the chosen few. So there was that, which became a big problem in 2017, where the chosen few en masse, because you have to follow or you're going to get dejected from the group. They were the upper tier of Doctor Who fans were the ones that were attacking, doing terrible things to the fans. It was Big Finish writers. It was forums who were blocking anybody that disagreed with them, run by the chosen few. It was the magazines. It was the chosen Facebook groups, which thank God I was never a part of, because I'm not even on Facebook anymore. But that elitism became so obvious, where it had been obvious to me for decades. It wasn't obvious to everybody else until the show started, where it's like, oh, you have these chosen fans. Okay, so you love them and you actively hate the rest of us. Like, there was a forum, which I will not mention by name, but they love me over there, that I used to spend hours a day on, 20 years ago. This was for many years the place where Doctor Who fans would congregate. They started blocking everyone who disagreed with the 13th Doctor. And the odd time I go on there now, I haven't posted on there in years. But they're begging for money. I wonder why that's happening, because he chased everybody away. So this one meeting place, they kicked all the chosen fans, kicked the non-fans out of there. So it's like, okay, so we've supported your show for decades, especially those of us that grew up with the classic series. Not only do you not want us, you are scum. You've actually attacked us. I've been attacked by people involved with the show. I think I replaced Ian Levine as being the most hated person in Doctor Who fandom in several corners. So you hate those of us that aren't part of your little club. Okay. You can go to hell. We're not going to support you again. The show is also, New Who is almost 20 years old. Even if all this hadn't happened, it would have been getting stale by this point, because it isn't the 60s. Shows don't last that long anymore. A lot of classic fans caught on to the 35-year mark, and a lot of us have done what I did. We're like, okay, we're different shows. We like the classic series. We don't want anything to do with the show going forward. The fans that you have catered, as soon as you do get canceled, they're going to go away. They're not going to clamor for it to come back. Us long-term fans don't want it to ever come back again because of what you did to it this time. It's impressive what they did, Jack. I say, if Whittaker only had one season of her Whittakerness, and it was canceled after season 11 because they'd gone wrong, they maybe took a break for a couple years, then came back and went back to real Doctor Who. At that point, that's when you could have changed it, or that's when he could have brought it back and saved it. As soon as they did the Timeless Children was the point of no return. And they may have had, there may have been a chance when Russell came, when RTD, the pompous twit, came back, that they could have saved the show had he gone back to what he was doing 10 or 20 years ago, made it good again. There's a slim chance it could have come back. That was their actual final chance. If you blew that, it was never going to come back. Not only did he blow it, it was worse than what came before.
Yeah.
So you don't have, you've lost 99% of the classic series fans. You've lost at this point the majority of people who are true fans that came back during your first era because you've alienated them. All you have left is your group of the cool people, which really it's now just humorous to the rest of us because how some of them, like that audio company, I won't mention by name this time, stays in business with nobody buying their stuff is beyond me. They're still preaching this. Nobody's interested. It's clear nobody's interested. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's listening to it. They're going to keep going. So now it's like, well, watch you guys sink yourself into the toilet. Disney will cancel you, although I guess the BBC still gets your taxpayer money. So I don't know, maybe they can refund it that. So it'll keep going down the toilet. Fewer and fewer people watching it. It can never come back. It's done. Something like Star Trek can come back because they had Picard season 3, which is, showed that there is still some gas left in this, even though they've made the worst decisions possible since then. Doctor Who can't come back because for 7 years, there's been nothing good. It's been downhill. It's continually gotten worse. They blew their one chance to bring it back. I don't think the show can ever come back. I really don't want the show to come back. I will continue making fun of it because it's hilarious until it gets canceled. I'll probably end up torturing myself for 12 hours for each episode of the next season just because it's funny. No, it's never going to come back. The show's done. Give me my classics. The show ended in 1989. It had, a nice little revisit 1996. Nothing after that matters anymore. It's done. Finished. Yeah. Doctor Who and Star Wars are the two franchises which are both destroyed to the point right now that neither of them can ever come back because they will never outlive what they've done. They've left such a bad taste in the mouths of former fans or people that like the classic stuff, like, classic Doctor Who or classic the original Star Wars trilogy. They're never coming back. The show can't come back. Goodbye, Doctor Who. R.A.P. But yes, Russell, keep it coming. You're going to give me awesome content. And this year, I promise I will probably have the GOAT review a few episodes. Just
oh, yes. It's brilliant.
It's ridiculous. So I'm assuming, Jack, you probably saw the show through those of us that reviewed it. So yeah, no, I wasn't exaggerating. It was that bad. So,
no, I know.
So my short answer is no. It will never come back.
Okay, so my take. Oh God, where do I begin? So something really strange has happened to me the past year, and I'm wondering if you could diagnose me, because I have gotten to a point now where through the Chibnall era, I still like Doctor Who. I was just like, it's just how the show is now that is bad. However, in the past year or so, even watching classic Doctor Who, I have really been struggling to watch it. I've been revisiting Russell's original era and going, perhaps it wasn't as timeless and wonderful
it's not aged well
as my younger self perceived it to be. Although I do still love episodes like Dalek, Impossible Planet, Satan Pit. They are classics to me.
I can tell you right now, Jack, you're where I was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Take a break from it. What I did, this was in 2020. Yeah, it was 2020. My DVD collection ended up in boxes in my basement. I took a complete break. I didn't watch Classic Who for over 3 years, about 3.5 years. Because I was where you were. I'm like, I'm so disgusted with the show. I'm watching the classic series and it's tainted it. Yeah. So I just don't watch it. I put it all. I'm like, I want to enjoy this show again. I remember telling when Nolan Lee this on several live streams. I want to be able to enjoy this show again, and I can't right now. I don't even want to look at it on the shelf. So the entire series, the Blu-rays, everything went in a box. It went in my basement. The DVDs are still down there because they've gone to Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-rays as they came out. I'd usually find them used because somebody would rip them, and I could get them fairly cheap, and Disney wasn't making any money. But I wasn't even watching the Blu-ray sets. I was just sort of collecting them for, when I wanted to go back. I can enjoy them again. And then it was actually earlier this year at the end of the travesty of RTD2, where in my mind, he destroyed everything that came before it. My mind kind of made that separation. I'm like, yeah, it's this was RTD all along, and he had no involvement with the classic series. So I pulled out Tom Baker season 4, started watching that, and I started watching John Pertwee, and I think it's because I did take that break, and I hadn't watched it in several years with the classic series, and because I completely written off and separated the new stuff, I was able to enjoy it again. But right now, by forcing yourself to watch it is going to make you hate it. You'll be where I was. So my advice to you is take a break from it. Right now, do not watch any more Classic Who. You don't necessarily have to go for 3.5 years like I did, but no, just don't watch it, because right now you're not enjoying it. Put it aside, even if it's for a year or something, maybe even as little as 6 months. Don't watch it until you want to watch it. Do not force yourself to watch it.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I did it. And because I did that, and now I'm rewatching, the Blu-rays in better quality. I'm like, I've gotten, after that break, I've gotten it back. But here's my other advice. Do not watch the extras. Do not watch them on the original extras on the DVDs. Do not watch the extras on the Blu-rays, because that will bring you right back to where you are, because the same condescending people and elitists that are talking down to us, those are the ones in the interviews. They were in the interviews 20 years ago. They're in the interviews now. I will never again watch a Doctor Who bonus feature, because that will sour to you, especially in the new ones, because you will see the people who destroyed the show talking about the classic series.
Yeah.
So here's my advice to you, Jack, and anybody else that is having an issue that is to the point where I don't think I can enjoy the classic series anymore. Put it away. Even visually, Jack, just get a big box. Do what I did, even though they do make a nice display piece. But no, just put the whole thing out of sight. Just take your DVDs.
Well, this is going to be somewhat of a problem, because, as I say, I've moved house, and my dream has always been to have some shelves on my walls, some cabinets to display all my wonderful figures in. So I have an entire wall that is covered in a almost complete collection of classic Doctor Who figures.
Then here's the other thing I'll suggest, Jack, is do what I did with the Blu-rays. So at one point, even though I hadn't watched them, when I was reorganizing my collection, I took at that point the classic series Blu-rays. I put up a picture on Twitter. I put them back on my shelf. So what I did is I continued to collect them. I still, a lot of them are still in the cellophane. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get these because they're going to go out of print anyway and become impossible to find. Although I got them used, you save a little bit of money. So do what I did. So leave it up. Keep collecting them like I did with the Blu-rays, although I didn't watch them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have this. At least I know I have it. It's on the shelf. I think about a third of my Blu-ray collection is still in the cellophane, because I haven't watched them yet. I'm going to get around to it eventually. So keep collecting them physically, but trust me, don't watch it. So I'm using up most of our time, so I'm going to stop talking, Jack, and I'm going to let you finish. But that's my advice. You're right where I was.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit. It's a little bit tougher because for my generation, because as I say, you guys got the wonderful experience of having Classic Who. Your childhood, and a problem being he's been able to kind of seal it in his own bubble. But the trouble is, if it weren't for New Who, I would never have discovered Classic Who. So I almost can't help but.
Well, I can look at that from it, because I didn't grow up with all of Doctor Who. I grew up mainly with Doctor Who in the '80s. I didn't grow up with the '60s and the '70s. I came to love those eras as they had started. But when New Who started, there were actually a lot of the Hartnell, or several of the Hartnell and Troughton stories that I had never seen because they'd been discovered, or they were in North America didn't air those eras a lot. PBS hardly ever aired them. So I actually, in many ways, I equate a lot of those first two Doctors with New Who because that's the first time I was able to see a lot of those shows. Um, and I was actually kind of concerned. I'm like, well, these ones I actually watched concurrently for the first time with the new series. Not quite to the degree that you didn't grow up with the original show at all. But I did equate those because I was watching them concurrently with the new series, and I was eventually able to separate them. But it's something that you won't know if it'll work until you actually do it, and then find something else. Like I've always been a horror fan, and my Doctor Who obsession was replaced with a complete obsession with classic horror movies. So even find something else in the meantime to obsess over. But yeah, that's it may not work for everybody, but that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful advice, and I think I'm definitely going to have to take a step back. It's just that I do have a few commitments with some other channels who want to review classic Who stories, and I have just been feeling like I just don't know if I have the passion or the drive. I might end up saying some more negative things than positive, and that's not how I want to be with Doctor Who. But
well, even with those, like I used to do. Noel used to do watch-alongs all the time. I know you were on a couple of those as well. It came a point where I stepped away from the live streams because this was during my boycott. I think around 2020 when I just couldn't stomach New Who anymore. I had to, aside from the occasional one, I also stepped away from live streams, and depending on who you're planning on viewing them with, just explain to them, I don't want to watch. This is what I told Noel, and obviously he was perfectly cool with it. I'm like, I can't do the watch alongs anymore. I can't bring myself to even have the show playing in the background. I'll still talk about it, but I just don't want to watch it. I need a distance from myself in classic Who. And most people would understand that. You have commitments, but it doesn't even necessarily need to be a watch along. You could just talk about the show generally. But that's what I did. Like, it had to be a complete break. I stopped doing watch alongs too. And that, it depends on your situation and who you're working with, but that's advice I would take. Or, do watch alongs that you're committed to right now, and then just say, look guys, I need to take a break from this. I'm not enjoying it anymore, and I want to be able to enjoy it again at the future, so I just have to walk away from it. I will still do live streams. I won't watch classic Who, if that makes any sense.
yeah, it's such a shame. So in terms of my viewers, can the show ever come back? As a fan, I think we all like to imagine ourselves as being the person who would bring it back. I've got some ideas. Obviously, I'm not trying to put myself above anyone else, but I do have some ideas of how I would do it. But obviously, dreams are far from reality. And if the show ever should come, get to the point where it's been a long break, it's been a long while, and we won't know this until it's cancelled. That's the first thing. Like, I just want this nightmare to be over. I want the show cancelled. I don't want there to be a second season for RTD2. We know there's going to be. I really hope there won't be a third. From what we're hearing and like rumors and whispers, it really is over. Disney are not paying for it anymore. I'm sure they'll probably try and stick it on BBC Three and slice the budget in two. It still won't help. I just want it gone. And this is one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever had to say, but a part of me wishes that I had never become a fan in the first place. That is how just utterly broken I am. My closest friends will know that I spent quite a few years, some of you might laugh at this, but I was designing a Doctor Who video game. Obviously not on the computer because I'm terrible with that, but just coming up with ideas. I used to spend a lot of my break times at high school just sat inside drawing because I didn't fit in outside, and a lot of the things I used to draw were these ideas for a Doctor Who game because I was so passionate and I loved it so much. And Doctor Who has almost felt quite a lot like my life. And I hope I don't get too personal here, but growing up, things have really soured, and Doctor Who's done that as well. And I really could have done with Doctor Who, at this point in my life, and it just feels like it is no longer there for me anymore. And I just feel like I don't think Russell really, or people like him, I don't think they think about the damage they do to other people. To quote the second Doctor,
No, they just don't care.
people spend all their time making nice things and other people come along and break them. And if you were to say, will the show come back in the near future? No. And I do want to kind of comment on what you said about, without the original fans, there will be no show. And I do agree.
Jack, one thing I want to say is, I've known about the game you've been designing. That's not something that you necessarily, just like the show itself, something that you need to put away forever. Like, it's something that you can always go back to. It's not all lost. Like, you may get to a point where it's like, I enjoy this again and I want to do it again. So don't look at that as lost time. Look at that as, it's something that you enjoyed. And I think, whether or not you enjoyed it, I think that's the main thing, but it's something that you can always go back to again in the future. And, and I can identify with a lot of this. Like 10 years ago was, the worst time of my life. Some people know what I was going through back then. Some people don't. Doctor Who was one of the things that actually got me through it. It was actually, concurrently with when the Capaldi season started. But yeah, it's like this old friend that you've had that you've grown apart, or worse, your friends become a complete jerk, or it's like a marriage that has gone sour. This is, something that you used to love more than anything, and now you hate each other. I always say, try and find, something else. And a lot of people, like I was in a situation where Star Trek and Doctor Who were the two shows that I loved, and I watched them both being destroyed simultaneously at the exact same time. Whittaker was going on at the same time as the early years of Star Trek Discovery, or even people who watch Star Wars. This is why I wish they'd make, something new that's not a remake. It's try to look for other things that you're passionate about, even if it's another show. And I know you said you're a fan of horror as well. For me, it's classic horror. There's so much of it. It's enough to keep me busy for the rest of my life. But it's find something else. But don't look at what you did as wasted time, because you enjoyed it at the time, and it's something that you could do again in the future. So, Jack, nothing's ever wasted. It's like, for me, I spent 10 years celebrating the show, making my DVD videos. A lot of years, a lot of time went into those. I enjoyed them. I obviously don't do that anymore. But I don't look at it as wasted time. I look at it as something that I enjoyed doing at the time. I don't know. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Doctor Who has made a lot of people happy, and the funny thing is, and I did mention this when I was on one of Noel's streams a while ago, in spite of the show and the people running it doing everything it can to be the worst thing imaginable and trying to attack people and drive people away, Doctor Who has still done what it's always done, and that's bring people together. Like, I have met lifelong friends because of this show. I am currently no longer in my old living situation because of the people I've met through this community and through that, and it really has changed my life. And although I'm not enjoying it at the moment, I'm sure there'll come a time when I enjoy it again. So will the show ever be able to come back? I am not going to say 100% no, But I will say, I hope that maybe, I know you said that without the original generation, the show can't survive. I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I do hope that maybe it did leave enough of an impression and inspire enough of my generation, like me, to go back and see the older show, that maybe someone can go, oh, do you know, that was a great show, but let's do it properly this time. And my first declaration as showrunner is to announce that the Fitzroy clan will never be allowed anywhere near it ever again, or anyone that was involved with it since 2005, because that would be the first thing I would do. But in terms for me, it's been a real childhood destroyer, because I'm at the point where I am seeing Doctor Who as this tacky show, and I never wanted to see it like that, and I never saw it like that.
It
Growing
never
up has
was.
made me very cynical, and I think the years of complaining about, I don't like this word anymore, but wokeness and all that, has really just made me very cynical and, complacent about most things. And obviously these things need to be called out because it's nonsense, but I just really wish I could enjoy something again. For example, I went to see the new Alien film, and I thought, I know it's Disney, but maybe they can get it right. Of course they didn't. It was
Yeah, I've heard mixed things.
just a copy of the original. It's just a copy, but not as good. And I am a die-hard fan of the original. It is the best sci-fi film of all time, in my opinion.
The Alien's a weird one. They made two brilliant movies, and then it's been a steady climb into further crap since then.
Yeah.
At least I've heard it wasn't as bad as Prometheus, but nothing could be as bad as Prometheus
No,
unless
but
it's
Ridley
Alien
Ridley
4.
just couldn't help himself. He had to insert some Prometheus stuff into there.
Yeah.
And I won't spoil anything. I'll say it's a fun movie if you just want monsters, but if you're a Xenomorph fan like me, it's going to annoy you.
It's Fox. So my rule with Fox, well, because it's Disney, is I won't give Disney any of my money. I will buy the. I probably won't bother buying the 4K used. I'll buy the Blu-ray used, so they don't make any money, and I'll watch it that way.
What I will say is, I think the tide is definitely turning, because I've heard a lot of good films that are coming out soon. Like we've had Beetlejuice 2.
Yep, that was really good.
There's a film coming out called Wild Robot, which I'm hearing nothing but good things about. And I've even heard that the latest Transformers film wasn't bad. It was just the awful marketing. And many people thought, oh, it's just a silly, stupid kids film. Apparently, it's very good. And I have to say, there were some things in the trailer that did make me think, well, that could be interesting. Because I do still like the Transformers characters. It's just the past 3 or 4 films have been so insufferably bad.
Well, I'm watching Longlegs tonight. I got the 4K from Amazon this week, starring our Lord and Savior Nicolas Cage. Yes, everybody. Nicolas Cage is my favorite actor, unironically, and he's too insane to ever go woke. But I'm actually looking at everybody who's watched this has said you need to watch Longlegs. So tonight, after my stream with Dan, I'm watching this on 4K. So I'm quite looking forward to it.
I really enjoyed that film. I've forgotten the name, but where there's a mom and dad, and there's this broadcast that goes out which turns all the parents against the kids.
Well, that's Mom and Dad.
Yes, I really
Cage?
enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah, that's got the hokey pokey scene in the basement. That's one of the best scenes ever filmed.
Yeah,
I love people. I don't know why. Yeah, Mom and Dad. Brilliant movie. That's came out 2017, I think it was. Critics hated it, which means you're gonna love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a really brilliant film. So I know you have to get off, so we are reaching the hour-and-a-half mark. So yeah, I think we've covered all we need to. I think it's been quite a depressing stream for a little bit, but we've had some laughs and we've had some jokes in there. But my final question:
how the brain works.
Oh yeah, and that, which is actually, it's really interesting. I'm just wondering if there's a way I can undo some of that so I can have a bit of longer time. But
it's simple. Give yourself. Actually, this goes with the advice I was just giving you on stream and before the stream. Give yourself new experiences. When you do different things, time goes slower because you're doing something different. Like, for example, Jack, this year, because I've been trying to get myself into shape. So this year, I took up walking and hiking with my dog, and it's been great. And this summer did seem longer than most, so find something new.
Absolutely. I mean, I've moved to a completely different part of the country, so I'm get myself out there, really go see the sights, and I have been doing that. And I don't think I give myself enough credit for how much of a I suppose a jump, because I've lived in a small village my whole life, and I'm just
I
trying to
was like
settle in
that.
somewhere new.
I moved to Southern Ontario, actually London, Ontario, when I was 22. So I was like that too. I grew up in a small mining town, and then I went to the big city, and yeah, but it was in many ways I don't know if I'd want to do it again at my age, but no, it was that change was one of the happiest times of my life, and it's when you come from a small place like I did, and you move to a new place. I've lived in London. I've lived in the Greater Toronto area multiple times. It's fun. But then, Jack, as you'll get older, you'll find you want to go back to less crazy times. Living in Toronto now would be my definition of hell. But no, new adventures are fun. So, you're in a new place, explore, meet new people, not terrible people, but, people that aren't terrible. Here's my advice, Jack. Get a dog.
Oh, it's in the
Well, no, this
pipeline.
is this is why I give that advice. Because I've had dogs my whole life. I'm one of those people. My entire world revolves around my Sky, my 2-year-old Labrador Retriever. But no, but also getting out there when you have a dog, and don't not a dog that just stays inside, but a dog that you tend to get out with. When you're out walking your dog, that's when you meet people. And I find often dog people, those are genuinely good people.
Yeah.
So that's why I say to everyone, well, how do I meet people? How do I meet people that are not stupid or work? I'm like, get a dog. It's, Sky and I, I have my step counter. The walks we do during the day, we do 10 to 15,000 steps. We're all over the place. I've met so many people around my neighborhood just because of Sky. That's why dogs are one of the best ways to meet people. That it might sound kind of silly, but that's my advice. Get a dog.
Well, it's just like in the films, isn't it? The dogs end up bringing the owners together.
Yeah, no, it is. I have around here. I have a lot of good friends, strictly because of they have dogs. I have dogs. Sky's best friend is a mixed lab named Wendell who lives across the street, and I've become really good friends with Wendell's owners over the years. It's like if you want to get out of the house, and if you want to meet people, or even if you just want to get out of the house, um, it's one of the best things you could ever ask for. Not to mention the fact that they are so good for you know dealing with stress. If I'm having a bad day, Sky just comes up, puts her head in my lap, and I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah. Oh, it is in the pipeline. We're thinking of getting a whippet.
Yep. It doesn't matter the breed. Huskies are a little rough. I would not get a husky if you're a first-time dog owner because they're lovable dogs, but they require a lot of work. But yeah, no, whippet is fine.
No, we see a lot in our local area, and they're the most adorable things in the world. But are getting a bit thrown off here. So
Well, Jack. That always happens when I'm here. That's my trademark.
no, it's fine. It's been a great stream. I've honestly loved it, and it's been so great to get some real insight from you. And I think we both have come to a similar conclusion that, at least for the foreseeable future, the damage that has been done to this franchise is just irreparable. And
Yep.
I honestly just don't know how these people can live with themselves. I
Well,
think
they're
they,
very they're bad people, Jack. Just remember, these are not good people. Just remind yourself these are very bad people, and it all makes sense.
yeah. And I'm also getting so sick and tired of, you know, people thinking that people like RTD are what homosexuality is. It's like, no, they are not, because I
He's
have
far
many
from it. Well,
many wonderful friends who are homosexual, and honestly, we talk about video games, the things we love. It is just such an unimportant factor. And the trouble with all these posers is it's all they ever go on about. They've got to force it into everything. You know,
Well,
it's like
here's another one. The last thing I'll say on this point, Jack. But it's I have like I'm straight myself, but I have a lot of gay friends around my age. And these were people that grew up. They realized who they were. Late '80s, early '90s. It was a very, very different time. Horrific what I saw some of them go through. Most of them those around my age actually hate this woke stuff. They hate it more than I do because they feel they're being pandered to, and they also feel they're being misrepresented. And they have these terrible, terrible people speaking out for them. And they're like, and it ends, and their concern is, everybody's going to think we're all like that. And like 99% of them are not like that. It's just these are very bad people, and they're speaking for things that they don't understand, and they didn't experience themselves. It's for elitism, or RTD. He thinks it's still 1984. It's just or ask or some of the or feminism. A lot of women hate it more than men because it says it's like, what, I can't earn anything because I'm a woman, so what I've accomplished in my life means nothing because you accomplished nothing. No, it's the funny thing is, it's the people that they pander to are the people that hate this the most. You and I, Jack, we're more neutral observers in this, but we could see it. We talk to people on both sides, the terrible people and the normal people legitimately and justifiably hate the terrible people.
Yeah, it's just, oh God, the world's just gone all topsy-turvy. So the answer to the big question, will it come back?
No.
Or I'm going to leave it with an optimist maybe, if you'll just forgive the person.
Oh no, that's actually cool. You know what? I have no problem with agreeing. This is something where we disagree, but we agree to disagree, or disagree to agree. I don't. We were. I'm even with there are some people that still think the show might come back. As long as it's for the right reasons. Like I'll never be that. I'll never have that view. But as long as it's for the right reasons and you're not doing it to be part of the cool crowd, which you're definitely not.
No.
People who think it might come back, I'm like, that's fine as long as it's for the right reasons. As long as it's because you like the show.
I'm just passionate about it, and I've got a few ideas, and I would love to see it come back as a proper science fiction, just adventure series. But my biggest worry is I would not want to fall into the same trap that the people making the show now have. I wouldn't want to get full in the head. I wouldn't want to,
you're not that kind of person. You can look at RTD even when he brought the show back, and you could see when watching Doctor Who Confidential 20 years ago, even back then, I didn't really like him. I'm like, this guy is so full of himself, but his show's good. No, you have to be a self-obsessed narcissist to be like them, and you are not that. I think RTD has always been that. So no, it's if you get real people like Terry Matalas, who did the one good season of Star Trek in 20 years, somebody like that who's genuinely cares about the product, maybe. But my view is just I think that the damage is cannot be repaired at this point. And I myself, I don't think, regardless of what they do, would ever become a fan again. But no, it's Jack, you're hopeful for the right reasons.
Yeah. And I'm sure things will swing back. It's human history's like that. You have the good times, the bad ones inevitably have to come, and then things should get better on the other side again. And hopefully we can go back to a time where entertainment is the priority. And I think Doctor Who as a show, and not just as a show, but as a concept, I think it will live forever. I think other people might use it. It might come back with a different name, a different, I see no reason why the Daleks can't have their own thing, because they're owned by obviously they're not fully owned by the BBC. It's the Terry Nation estate. I just hope that there's some way that this story can continue on, because it's not fair on all those who made it back in those different times. It's not fair on them that their life's work, that everything they fought for should be dragged through the mud and forgotten about. I think it deserves to outlive these insufferable people and this insufferable time that we're living in. But as I say, will it come back anytime soon? I doubt it. And to be honest, I don't want it to. I want it cancelled, I want it rested, and then I can start enjoying it again with no worry that it's going to get any worse. So that's where I'm going to leave it with that.
Yep.
So
well said, Jack.
Yep. So we're going to wrap up now, guys. A big thank you for those of you who've been in the chat. This has been a really great stream, and a big thank you for coming on, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's something I never thought would happen, and I'm.
Oh, it was awesome, my friend. No, I'm just somebody who yells at things and occasionally gets replaced by a goat. That's all who I am.
Oh, well, I'd love to see more of your content. I'd love to see you back as regularly as you possibly can, because your videos always put a smile on my face when it comes to.
As soon as I get the bug, it's literally even when I do make videos, aside from when I ended up doing Doctor, when I do make a video, I don't even know the day I'm going to make a video. It's just like, this really stupid thing happened. I feel like yelling at this, and I'll yell at this, or this is so stupid, I think I need to step aside and bring the goat out of his pen.
Oh, hold on. RTD's on the phone. Hold on. Hello? Hello? Yes, are you talking about me? Yeah. Oh, well, I just wanted to say that you're all a bunch of conservatives, and I don't want you watching my show. I don't ever want you watching my show. I'm so much better than you, and you don't deserve to even exist. So go away. Bye. Ta-ta. Kiss, kiss.
Kiss, kiss.
Well, that was him.
I got a certain finger up right now.
I should probably block the number. There we are.
No, just no. Well, mess with him. Just say you love what he's doing. We'll get into his head.
Oh God. Okay, so I think we better wrap it up here, though, guys. So thanks to all of you who have joined in the chat. Thanks for all of you who watched. So stay safe and happy wherever you guys are in the world, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.
Cheers.